Welcome to the Wow MD podcast, where in each episode you will get in 30 minutes or less valuable pearls about holistic wellness, anti-aging, hormone therapies, beauty trends, and other facts you should know about our medical healthcare system and your health that no one is telling you. My name is Dr. Mirala Chernayanu. I am a conventional board-certified OBGYN physician who, after the loss of my father due to a careless and uncaring medical team, decided to retrain and seek certification in anti-aging and restorative therapies. What I know, I am happy to share with you. I am going to get started with part 2 of the sexual well-being during perimenopause. In the last episode, part 1, I talked about the significantly very severe mood problems and the crankiness, the irritability, the anger, the liability emotionally that women have to go through during perimenopause. I also talked a little bit about fatigue, and those are very big issues affecting women and impacting their desire to be intimate, right? A third big problem is weight gain and how a woman's body will change and assume a shape that is not very familiar and it's not very sexy. I'm talking about belly fat. Belly fat happens during perimenopause and during menopause, and it happens to many women. It's actually a thing that happens to almost all women in varying degrees of severity. Belly fat is enemy number 1 as a woman to feeling sexy. Many women will want to avoid being naked if they lost confidence in their appearance and how attractive they feel. Nothing kills a woman's sexual desire more than not feeling attractive and confident in her body and her sexuality. So let's talk about belly fat for a few minutes. There are many reasons for belly fat, so let me talk about a few of them, specifically that happen to women at perimenopause. Now, the crazy mood swings that I mentioned in the previous episode are sometimes easily and quickly relieved by sugar, by carbs, by salty snacks, and other many bad foods that we indulge, as well as alcohol. Oh boy, do we know it? Yes, we know it. Do we do it? We do it. Do we know it's bad for us? Yes. We still do it, however, and sometimes we'll feel powerless to stop it. We keep doing it. We crave these foods. They make us feel good a little bit for a little interval of time, and then we get right back down in the crapper, and we hate ourselves for falling prey to them. Why do we engage in this vicious circle? Well, stress is a very big culprit. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember my 20s and 30s as being decades of adventure, new friendships, new relationships, setting course for escaping a dysfunctional communist regime in a third world country to a new modern country with a powerful economy and unlimited possibilities. The 40s, it wasn't so much about excitement. 40s, we feel bogged down by career responsibilities, stressful family matters, financial concerns, and on top of all that, we have to put up with all the crazy hormone swings. So, are you going to be more stressed in your 40s than your younger decades as a woman? Duh. Of course. Why am I talking about stress? What's that got to do with sexual wellness? Well, because for a woman, stress is the enemy of looking good and feeling good. Stress raises your cortisol. Cortisol is an absolutely vital hormone for our well-being. But if you have too much of it, your sleep is disturbed. You might get nightmares. You live in a constant stress mode, a constant mode of fight or flight response. Your body constantly releases sugar to provide you with the needed reserves for this fight or flight reaction. And the constant steady surges of sugar will raise your insulin, which is required to bring back the balance. The persistent surges in insulin create insulin resistance, and now, boom, the weight gain is there to stay, and you got belly fat. Our stress hormone cortisol is absolutely vital to our well-being, just like I said. However, if you have too much of it, it will lead to mood disturbances, to anxiety and depression. You might actually see everything in your life that's happening to you through a dark cloud. Every little thing that doesn't go the way you planned, every little thing that takes you slightly off course becomes a catastrophe. It's major drama. Maybe go back to my episode about 10 ways stress is killing us slowly and listen to it. Just take 20 minutes and give it a listen. Don't say just, yeah, I know stress is bad, but it's part of life and there's nothing I can do about it. In order to confront a problem, in order to fix a problem, you first have to understand how you came to have that problem, how that problem/stress entered your life, and what is your best coping mechanism for it. Well, there's many answers to this. And I'm going to make it very simple for you because this is actually written in the Adrenal Fatigue book that was written by Dr. Wilson. I liked how he presented it, so I'm going to present it to you in case you haven't read the book. When you're confronted with a bad stress situation, you have 3 options. Number 1, you change your attitude and you put up with it the best you can. Number 2, you walk away from the person, the job, the relationship, whatever it is, the situation that makes you feel overly stressed. That is not something you can do when it's your children or a career that you love, right? Or it's a career that you need to bring and put bread on your table back home, right? And then you feel stuck, and that's a problem. Number 3, try your best to change the situation, change the circumstance that's creating the stress and havoc in your life. So take some action. Number 1, make it simple. I'm just going to re-enumerate all of this. Change yourself to fit the situation. Number 2, change the situation to fit you. Number 3, leave, abandon the situation and walk away. Now, life is not always that simple, but it could be. Ask for professional help. Ask for help from a family, a friend. You do not have to go through this alone. Ask for help from your doctor. Now, here's the kicker, and that's why I'm talking about this in a sexual well-being podcast episode. Us women love a good fight. We believe we can change the world, and we believe with our hearts that we are so powerful that we can change others. Sometimes we do. But if it comes to a relationship with a hostile coworker or a toxic family member, our belief in our ability to change them for the better might be our downfall. Please know when to stop trying and move on if you find yourself caught up in such a situation. Coming back to stress, if you live in a constant fight or flight mode, again, sex is going to be the last thing on your mind. I will say that stress is the enemy of intimacy, and stress is also the enemy of being fertile. Many women have delayed childbearing until they feel ready financially, emotionally, and mentally, and career-wise to have a child. They find themselves in their 40s wanting to be mothers for the first time or wanting to be mothers again. Your mind, your body, and soul, when you get to that point, craves a child, and the stress, the fear, the frustration, and the disappointment can impact a woman in her 40s trying to have a baby. Now, intimacy is no longer a wonderful time with your partner. Instead, it becomes a tool and a means to achieving and fulfilling the desire for motherhood. The enemy of fertility in your 40s, which obviously requires you to be sexually intimate with your partner, is going to be number 1, stress, and number 2, obsessing over the need for becoming a mother, either again or for the first time, and ignoring the most important aspect of being intimate, which is being in the moment in order to allow your body to create an opening for a new life. Women are used to fight and work hard for what they want. But the miracle of life is complicated, and you need to lean into it rather than try to force it, because there is no way you can force your body to allow and sustain the miracle of new life when you constantly have to fight fatigue, poor sleep, an emotional roller coaster of financial concerns, career and family stress, and much more. On the other hand, you might be in your 40s and have 2 or 3 children already, or never have had any, but you find yourself at this point in your life where you are absolutely certain you don't want more children. Possibly the worry over childbearing can hold you back from being intimate. Now, keep in mind, this should not be a problem in a modern society that we live in today. This is a problem with a very easy fix. If you are in a stable and committed relationship, please have a conversation with your spouse or partner and review the possibility of vasectomy for you as a couple. But if this is not an option, consider a long-term acting IUD, an intrauterine device. These are completely safe and reversible, and if not working for you due to whatever possible side effects, it can be removed in less than 5 minutes. So do not stress over, I don't want any more children, and I'm avoiding sex because of that. Now, I digress a little bit as I keep talking about stress, and I'm sorry, I need to stay on point, but I want to keep talking about it because stress is so important. People underestimate the impact that stress has on their lives, and women above all. But let me get back to the belly fat. I talked a little bit about cortisol, the stress hormone. I talked about insulin resistance, which are the two big things that give us belly fat. Let me talk about belly fat, other reasons. Well, everybody gets belly fat after menopause, whether they like it or not. And the main reason that happens is because we lose our estrogen. And many women do not appreciate the impact that estrogen has on their insulin sensitivity. Once we lose our estrogen, and that doesn't mean you have no estrogen, just having the lower estrogen, it's a problem, we become insulin resistant. It takes us women much more work to keep the weight that we have and avoid gaining more weight. In a nutshell, you need to eat less, exercise more to keep your weight. We're not even talking about losing weight here. Losing weight during perimenopause and after menopause, it's a lost cause if you're not doing hormone replacement therapy, and that is the ugly truth. It's pretty much impossible to lose weight once you lose your hormones, your sex hormones, because you can pretty much do it, I guess, and lose weight if you starve yourself and exercise like a maniac. Because yes, you can do anything with starvation and exercise. But as soon as you come back to whatever your normal lifestyle is, your thermostat for the metabolic rate resets and you start gaining weight like crazy. And again, our hormones are really important for this. Let me talk for a second about testosterone. Many women underestimate the importance testosterone has in keeping them lean and fit. When we were young, we had plenty of testosterone. Testosterone helped us lose weight, stay lean, fit, and burn off that belly fat easily. Testosterone helped us build and maintain the muscle mass we have. And again, the more muscle mass we have, the stronger we are, and the easier it is to burn off the calories, and specifically our fat. Now, I talked about the crazy swings in estrogen. High levels of estrogen are really bad for the belly fat. And this whole estrogen dominant situation that women find themselves in during perimenopause could have disastrous consequences for their weight and specifically the belly fat. It's almost like they're pregnant, but there is no child because they have the cravings, the weight gain, the emotional roller coaster, and at the end of it, there's no child to at least have as a consolation prize. So high estrogen to low estrogen swings are devastating, bad for the belly fat. Insulin resistance is bad for the belly fat. High cortisol is bad for the belly fat, and low testosterone is bad for the belly fat. So these are our hormones. Let's not forget inflammation, which is a very big reason for persistent belly fat. The stress, the poor sleep, losing our hormones, and feeling terrible, all of this leads to unusual cravings that are very hard to fight. And our cravings for bad foods will contribute and perpetuate this chronic state of inflammation because all the foods that we crave are laden and full of preservatives and toxins that are meant to get us addicted and disrupt all our hormone receptors. So I painted this horrible picture of a woman who is stressed out, tired, irritated all the time, snapping heads off with minimal to no provocation, who lost interest in being intimate, who no longer represents the woman her partner fell in love with, So the question is, what can we do to avoid getting here? Well, awareness is key, and early intervention is crucial and critical. Let's check our hormones. Let's be persistent about checking our hormones, because I want to be very clear. There is a specific rhyme and reason in checking hormones. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let me talk about cortisol first. When should we check our cortisol? We always should be checking our cortisol first thing in the morning, fasting before any stressful or strenuous activity if you're planning to do a blood test. A simple blood draw can provide pretty good insight into our early morning surge. However, diurnal salivary cortisol pattern, that's your day pattern of cortisol, is much better and more reliable in pointing out the possible problem with your adrenal cortisol curve. So here's the thing, that's not cheap. It's not covered by your insurance, so you have to fork out a good amount of money to pay for that. But most times you can tell what you will find with such testing by actually listening and talking to the woman. That's an art long gone and only practiced by doctors or practitioners who use functional medicine principles of evaluation and treatment. The great majority of doctors do not have the luxury of time and are not trained to practice functional holistic medicine, which means looking for and addressing root cause of any imbalance and dysfunction rather than just masking it or alleviating symptoms with medicines. Let me move on to the next hormone to test for, insulin. Our sugar hormone needs to be checked always fasting in the morning. And to understand insulin resistance, you need to check the fasting glucose, a hemoglobin A1C level, and Quest can actually calculate an insulin resistance score easily. And that is very valuable information for both the doctor and the patient. Now, the most important thing to be evaluated during perimenopause to understand what are you going through and how this can be addressed. Is your estrogen about gone and you need a little estrogen? Are you having highs and lows of estrogen and you need to balance your progesterone, testosterone? Do you have good estrogen and good progesterone, but you're completely out of testosterone? You need to know. And the most important thing is to know how to evaluate and test these hormones correctly. Let me explain the limitations of hormone testing and why your doctor might say, hey, your hormones are normal. There's nothing wrong with your hormones. Take this antidepressant. But you do not feel normal and you feel off. If you test your estrogen one time during the cycle, it will tell you something completely different depending on what time of the cycle you test. And again, your cycle is from the first day of your period until the first day of your next period. If you test your estrogen in the first week, if you test it during ovulation, days 12 through 14, if you test it during day 21, which is mid-luteal phase for a woman that has a predictable 28-day cycle, or you test it days 23 to 25 right before the new period starts, it will tell you something different. So should we talk about testing estrogen on day 7, day 12, 14, again on day 20, and maybe also day 23, 24, 25? It's the same limitation that we need to be aware of with the cortisol testing when we do estrogen testing. A one-time value, one-time cortisol level, it's not useful to look at the big picture. So a one-time value for estrogen, it's not useful to look at the big picture. It will be limited as far as value of information provided that needs to be analyzed. Saliva is better for cortisol than blood. So maybe urine metabolites might be more predictable in terms of overall estrogen exposure. And again, that is what Dutch testing offers. Everything has to be taken in context. And again, before any studying and any testing is conducted or ordered, the doctor needs to understand what are the circumstances of the woman in front of him or her. How long is the cycle? How many days does the period last? And when during the cycle does she experience symptoms? It means getting a thorough history of a woman's menses and symptoms and whether or not they correlate. Honestly, I anticipate that takes at least 15 to 20 minutes. This is a problem because no conventional medicine doctor that is billing insurance has the time to dedicate 15 to 20 minutes just to look at this specific hormonal key aspect of a woman's health when she's going through the 30s or the 40s. And then there's also the rest of the big picture. The rest of the systems have to be evaluated as well, because digestion, mood, inflammation, and mitochondrial dysfunction will all impact the woman's hormones. So a doctor has to keep that in mind. All right, lots more to say about estrogen testing, right? But what about progesterone? Well, it needs to be tested when a woman either takes progesterone as a replacement or when the doctor wants to know if the levels are appropriate and balancing her estrogen. Only after she ovulates. And again, that's if and only if there's an expectation she's ovulating. A woman who gets periods every 2 to 4 months or hardly ever is not ovulating. She will have no progesterone. A woman who gets a period every 20 to 22 days is also very possibly not ovulating. A woman who gets a period every 24 to 40 days, unpredictably so, is likely not ovulating, or if she does, it's not consistent. And again, if a woman is not ovulating, she will not have progesterone. Estrogen dominance with the crazy mood swings and the crazy estrogen levels, ups and downs, is what drive women to be miserable during perimenopause. So it is important to take the progesterone level not as a snapshot of what is your progesterone, but what is your progesterone in relation to the estrogen. Again, lots more to say about this, but that's where you need to seek a physician that understands these nuances and who can help you. What about testosterone? Let's talk testosterone for a minute. Testosterone is being produced by your ovaries and some of it by the adrenal gland. Very few women, and those would be the exception rather than the rule, are going to have significant amount of testosterone during perimenopause and after menopause that is produced naturally. The majority of women, 99.99%, will have extremely low testosterone starting as early as their late 30s to early 40s. As a woman, you need to know that testosterone is your feel-good hormone. The feel-good mentally, emotionally, and physically. This hormone is the hormone that keeps you lean, fit, and sexy. Is the hormone that makes you interested in intimacy. Is the hormone that drives sexual desire. Testosterone is the hormone that stabilizes your mood and gives you strength. It gives you confidence, ambition, drive, and motivation. Testosterone is an antidepressant hormone. Now, does that mean that all women that are depressed have low testosterone? Probably. Does that mean that all women who have low testosterone are depressed? No, far from it. However, if a woman is depressed, irritable, and very emotional, and she's also estrogen dominant with low testosterone, then the first line of therapy for that woman should not be an antidepressant or an SSRI medication. It should be testosterone therapy. Many of the women experiencing severe PMS, also called PMDD, fail to see improvement with progesterone or estrogen, but respond highly favorably to testosterone. A little testosterone cream can go a long way. And if you tried the testosterone cream and it's not working for you, then you might need to try a weekly testosterone shot or the testosterone pellet. Does it matter what type of testosterone availability the testosterone replacement method offers and has? Yes. Because if you're looking to a brain improvement, as far as mental health, cognition, and sexual desire, all of these three things depend on the brain. You need to have bioavailable 24-hour steady levels of testosterone rather than just super high testosterone for a few hours and then super low testosterone for a few hours. So it's a no-brainer which method is far superior and more effective. That's the pellet compared to the cream. There are many solutions for sexual wellness after perimenopause. A very simple solution when you find yourself cornered, stressed out, tired, gaining weight, losing your mojo, becoming the person that even you can no longer recognize, just try a little testosterone. It might go a long way to protect your marriage, your family, and your career from being set on a path of destruction. I made this comment on one of my social media posts that should women address the hormonal crazy fluctuations they suffer during perimenopause early on and ask for the help of a physician, that would likely do more than just give them an antidepressant, which now they're stuck on for the majority of their life because they're absolutely afraid to even get off the medication, even when perimenopause is over. All it takes is just a little testosterone. If all women at perimenopause would have their testosterone and progesterone levels checked as a standard of care, and all perimenopausal women who have testosterone and progesterone deficiency would be offered testosterone and progesterone replacement, I bet you top dollar we would save so many marriages that simply dissolve due to a highly addressable, highly correctable condition called perimenopause. Again, I'm going to end on this note. Sexual wellness and sexual dysfunction for a woman in perimenopause is highly correctable and treatable. Progesterone, first line of therapy, monitor the response. If not optimal, consider testosterone therapy. And obviously, everything else I talked about. You look at your diet, you look at your stress, you look at your exercise, you look at yourself in the mirror, and if you don't like what you see, there are so many things available today in this modern day of med spas and lasers and body shaping and body contouring that you can get back to your youthful, sexy self in no time. I will come back next week and I would like to talk about sexual dysfunction in the younger woman and the top 3 medical conditions that unfortunately affect women, not just when they're young, but also when they're older. And that is vulvodynia, vaginismus, endometriosis, and more. So please join me back here next week. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and thank you for listening to today's episode. If the content I provided wowed you, was helpful and valuable to either you or someone close to you, please do me a favor and leave me a review. I am very open and welcome any kind of feedback as well as suggestions on any content ideas. So please forward those suggestions to Jessica, my patient care coordinator, through our website, herabeautyandwellness.com. And I look forward to our time together next episode.